What if I told you that the key to profitability in your business is to think twice about who you hire? So much so that this one trick that we'll talk about today can result in over 30% more profitability overall. I'm Joey Price, and this is the Business, Life, and Coffee Podcast, the weekly podcast that makes you perform sharper, better, and healthier as a leader of people and teams. Connect with me online at Joey V Price HR and check out past episodes on iTunes, Podbean, and other podcast outlets. Are you ready to learn the key to profitable hiring? Let's get right to it. What are the latest trends in recruiting? And is diversity really important when it comes to hiring new talent? I'm Joey Price, and joining me today is Keirsten Greggs, and she's here to explain all this and more. So first, let's get some background. Keirsten is a infamous in a good way, recruiter on social media. You've probably seen her on LinkedIn and Instagram and some of the articles that she posts on her Trap Recruiter site. And we're going to just talk about some of the insight and information that you need to know to help you grow your business, whether you're an entrepreneur just starting out, or if you're listening and while you're walking the dog and you want to bring some things back to your office to help with growing your business. So, hey, without further ado, Keirsten, thanks for coming to the show.
Thanks for having me, Joey. And I apologize for breaking in and interrupting you early on. I didn't realize that you were starting.
No, it's all good. It's all good. And a fun fact about Keirsten that relates to coffee is that she will generally post our favorite large coffee company and how they typically spell her name wrong. So I always get a kick out of that.
It's one of my all-time favorite things to do. I'm actually sad on days when they do not ask me for my name or when they actually spell it correctly, which has only happened, I believe, one time that I can remember, and it was a Friday the 13th, and the person didn't ask, but they spelled my name correctly.
Were you local there, and they just happened to know you?
Well, when I was going to work, because I have been an entrepreneur working for myself for the past year, but when I was going to work, I went to the same drive-through every day, so I had my special baristas. I used to have about 3 that I would see every morning.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, depending on which Starbucks I had time to go to. So they, of course, don't ask your name in the drive-through, but they would know me. And then there are some that know my name, so they don't ask, and they just write it any way that they want to. And when I do switch it up, they look confused. And then when they call my name, I get confused because I don't remember what I told them. And I'm sitting there like, really? You guys forgot about me? And they're like, drink is right there. And I'm like, oh, it says something else today.
Yeah, I think a good idea, hey, Starbucks, if you're listening, when you're recruiting new baristas, part of the hiring process should be not only a spelling test, but a listening test as well to see how well people can listen to what they're being told and accurately write that on a cup. I know you guys type it now, but how well do you listen to what people are saying? Because it's kind of funny to see your post, Keirsten.
Oh, I think that there are actually people who they may not always engage or interact with me, but I know for certain there are people who really do, as you said, look forward to it because I've made such a big deal about it for the past few years. It started out as a game, but now it's expected. I'm like, what's my name going to be today? Or how are they going to spell it?
Oh, man. Well, for our listening audience that want to actually connect with you online, could you do us the awesome pleasure of spelling your name so that folks can connect with you online?
Yes, you can find me on LinkedIn at Keirsten A. Greggs, Keirsten. Last name is Greggs, Greggs. On Twitter as at Trap Recruiter, and there is an at Keirsten Greggs as well. It's not as active as it should be. Because I have been using my personal account more often, but I won't give that out so that I don't confuse folks. Also on Instagram, you can find me at Trap Recruiter and at Keirsten Greggs, KeirstenGreggs. And Facebook is the same, at Trap Recruiter and at Keirsten Greggs.
So, Keirsten, you are a senior talent acquisition consultant, career coach, blogger, diversity advocate, and you also created the hashtag Recruiter Problems meme machine. What are some of the trends that you're seeing in the talent acquisition space? Let's start with the fundamental question. Is it really as hard as people say it is to find top talent these days?
I think the issue is that a lot of times, and not just for the job seeker, but also for HR professionals in general, I think sometimes we have a tendency to minimize and diminish the true value of talent acquisition and how we are really adding value to organizations. So yes, it is hard to find talent. It is there. There are always going to be differentiators. There are always going to be roadblocks. For me, coming from the defense and intelligence market, obviously, full scope poly clearances created an issue for me in first of all finding diverse talent, because with already a small talent pool, being able to have persons of color or even senior level women was an issue, given the added differentiator of the clearance, depending on the level. So I do think there is a problem when it comes to talent. I don't think that talent or job seekers really know how to market themselves, how to brand themselves, how to interact with and engage with recruiters. And I think that recruiters have gotten lazy and have not fully used the tools that are available to them to enhance their job search, to enhance their finding good talent. They kind of use it as a crutch and do the bare minimum and use technology as an excuse when something doesn't go right.
Yeah, that's a great point about using technology as a crutch. I often feel like, so when I'm talking about HR and the use of technology, I often give the analogy of if you want to lose weight, it's like using a treadmill. Sure, this nice technology, software, cloud computing application, app, whatever, in and of itself is a useful tool. But if you don't know how to use it, and if you're not committed to using it to the full extent, then you're going to have problems. I mean, it doesn't matter how great the tool is. It's all about the person using it.
Absolutely. And again, we have, or in my experience, I should say, I would think that it may be different in other industries, but I've worked, again, for some of the larger and most well-known defense contractors. So I can say this with full certainty that there is a tendency to have someone who doesn't actually have to engage with and work within these systems that we're going to be using tell us and choose them for us. So all we end up getting is a how-to. We don't get a why, and that hinders our ability to work well. One of the reasons why I moved away from full life cycle recruiting, meaning, running a desk or, my primary goals to fill positions for my hiring managers, for my customer base, into operations where I was leaning more towards the systems, more towards technology, more towards this is the way a recruiter thinks, and this is how we can help them be more effective. This is how we can help them, close gaps and reduce their time to fill, spend less money, be more engaging, promote your brand in a way that says, we're the premier employer. Have people actually come to us instead of us always throwing out bait or posting and praying and those type of, fruitless activities that recruiters find themselves doing far too often.
Wow, that's interesting because I remember in I say the early days of Twitter, but the early days of the HR community on Twitter, and we had folks like Lars and Jessica Lee, and we were all discussing the idea of talent communities and building talent pools. But what you're saying is that even though that idea has been out there for a long time, uh, larger corporations aren't even adopting that type of model where people are being drawn into them.
No, some of them aren't. I can't say that all of them, but I mean, obviously, if you're in a technology company, which a lot of us, for again, defense contractors claim to be, we say we're engineering companies, we say that we're a cyber company, we're on the cutting edge, but our recruiters don't even have LinkedIn accounts, or they're sharing them, or they don't know how to do anything really but go on a job board. And honestly, if you are a recruiter with a certain number of years of experience and you rely on a job board to find candidates, then you have already lost. You're behind.
Wow, you've already lost. That's powerful. So a trend that you're seeing is a failure to embrace technology in the way that is most beneficial for employers and most beneficial
Yes.
for the end result of hiring great talent.
Mm-hmm. I know there was one time that I was training on a new ATS. This was years ago. I had gone, to all the trainer classes. We learned how to do it, and the director said, "Hey, you go out here, you teach the recruiters how to use this." So I wrote the training, I delivered the training, and before I did that, I invited the managers, the hiring managers, the team leads to sit on the training so that we could develop, the testing modules and the assessment modules from the training to make sure that it was effective, And I invited the director, and that person said that they were not even interested in coming. Like, they didn't even care to learn how to use the system.
That's interesting. I mean, it's beyond interesting. It's mind-boggling how.
Well, you see that a lot, and then that's where you get, the excuses that, oh, well, it doesn't work, or we can't do it this way, or blah blah blah.
So let's bring this down a level, because a lot of our listeners are going to be either they're leading a small business or they're entrepreneurs, and when I hear you discussing these challenges that larger organizations are facing, where they may have more resources, they have the ability to acquire these tools, these larger enterprise scale tools. Uh, if I'm listening as a small business owner, which I am, but if I'm listening as a small business owner, and I'm like, wow, I hear that these larger companies are struggling with acquiring talent because they are not utilizing their systems effectively. I think that's a huge game changer as a small business owner to say, okay, if I want my team to do it right, I just need to listen to what Keirsten's saying and do the opposite of what the big guys are doing. And I think that that could be a huge game changer.
I think it already is, because I do see I can just look at my peers, folks that started with me. I started almost 18 years ago, and there were folks that, 20, 25 years in who, mentored or trained me, and gave me the drive and the passion for recruiting that I have, who, left these organizations and became small business owners, and they know the issues and they know how to do things different. So I do think that there are a lot of folks out there that are taking a more intimate approach, that are going back to, true, again, engagement and getting from behind the technology. I am an advocate for technology. We need it. I love it. The cutting edge stuff. Like, anytime someone shows me a new program that, can make a better flow chart, or that can make better table, I'm like, ooh, this is wonderful. Anything that can analyze data for me, outside of an Excel spreadsheet, like, I'm having a party. Please buy it for me for Christmas. But I think that's, like I said, the folks that are coming out of those places, they know that, and I think they are imparting that knowledge to other small business owners. I mean, what the big issue is in these larger organizations is that, while they have the money, while they have more people, while they have more resources, most of it is spent on waste. It's wasted.
Wow. So a competitive advantage for an entrepreneur is to eliminate the waste and focus on the things that are effective.
Absolutely. And when, like I said, when you have limited resources, when you have limited people, when you have limited budget, like you kind of have no choice. And I think that's great for someone in this field.
Yeah. Yeah. We're joined by Keirsten Greggs. For those of you all that are just picking up the podcast, either from you were in the car or just, picking it up on the road. Keirsten, I want to share some stats as we pivot to the conversation about diversity. As we talk about gender diversity, ethnic diversity, something that really stood out to me, there's a blog on clearcompany.com's website. And the one thing that grabbed my attention was that when teams where men and women are equal earners, there's 41% more revenue.
Wow.
What are your initial thoughts on that?
Wow. That's extremely impactful. But how many organizations really have men and women that are equal earners?
That's a great question. I would think it's safe to say that less than 50% are equal work, equal pay organizations. I think that'd be a fair guess.
I mean, that number of 41%, like that's phenomenal. And that is, if that doesn't tell you that diversity works, then I don't know what can. Because
Right.
companies look at the bottom line. I learned that lesson a long time ago. I brought some interns in to talk to one of my business leaders, and they asked the question, and I thought I had prepared them for everything. I'm like, know the company, ask these questions, do this, and so they asked him, or he asked them, so why are we in business? And they gave everything from the mission statement to the values to, everything that was on the website, everything that I had, imparted to them. And he told them they were wrong. He said, no, we're here to make money.
That's true.
And at the end of the day, it is that simple. So if your revenue is up 41% because you are hiring more women and you're paying them the same, or you're hiring more men, or you're hiring more persons of color and paying them the same, and your revenue goes up, then why wouldn't you do it?
Yeah. I mean, if I were to think about being a woman who shows up to work and I know that my pay is equal to my peer, then I'm going to want to be even more competitive with my peer because I want to make more than my male counterpart because I'm going to be hustling to make that money. So I think this is the right thing to do, where create a level playing field for both males and females in your organization and remove gender as a barrier and make it about the performance that each person is doing. And what are your thoughts on that?
I think, again, depending on the size of the organization and depending on how forward thinking their leaders are, we're still, in my opinion, too far off from performance-based pay, performance-based accolades, performance-based promotion, and all of those things. I mean, honestly, one of the worst parts of the year for me was, review time, because it was stupid. Like, there was no point.
So if we're so far off from performance-based compensation, why is it still the talk of the town in a lot of our big blogs and industry articles? Why is that still, the guide? Like, why is that still the goal? Why is that the end goal if we're still so far away?
Well, it should be the end goal, and you just gave me data to support it. So at the end of the day, I mean, we talk about a lot of things, we just don't practice them.
Mm-hmm. I've got another one for you.
Okay.
Bilingual employees earn 10% more revenue. So what that says to me is that if I have someone on my workforce that can engage with customers across many different demographics, whether those two languages are English and Spanish or English and French, English and ASL, even,
Mhm.
uh, you're going to be able to reach more customers. And why, as a business owner, would I not want to reach more customers if, like you said, businesses are in business to make money?
I'm not going to argue with you. I think that more businesses need to be listening to your podcast right now and need to be thinking about these numbers and then going back to, and more HR people need to be going back to their businesses with the numbers. I mean, at the end, that's what they want to see. Like we come in, we go to these conferences, we get fired up because someone talked about this, and this, but then we don't take that data back. We don't take the proof that these
Yeah,
things
yeah.
work back to our organizations. We just ride high for a few months off of the thrill of it all. It's like kind of like, Mom, forgive me, but when you go to church and the music's good and the vibe is there, folks are praising God, and then you get home and you're like, wait a minute, what was the sermon about?
You've already forgot.
I already forgot because once the thrill was gone.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, I think that's true. What do you think about when people are, for example, you leave an HR conference, you've downloaded a whole bunch of information, and you present it to your supervisor or you present it to your CEO, and then it just falls on deaf ears. Do you think that happens often?
I do, and I can speak from personal experience. Like I've written, again, I write a white paper. When white papers first started to be really popular,
Yeah.
and they pay all this money to send us away, and at some point, I think I can only speak for myself. I think they were sending me away because I was causing too many problems. They're like, yes. Oh, there's a conference. Go. How many days will you be gone? Enjoy yourself.
Hey guys, we can relax. Kirsten's not here. Woo.
Kirsten's not here bothering us. Yes. So I know. I do think that, we bring it back, we give them the information, and I think it falls on deaf ears because, again, maybe we're not giving them the right data. Maybe we don't know what their pain point is, or maybe we are not really communicating our pain point in a way that they can understand.
Yeah. Well, I think the bottom line of it though is in being you're in talent acquisition and we're talking about these numbers and I'm a business owner in the HR space, but we see these challenges that relate to people as challenges that actually impact the bottom line. And
Mm-hmm.
so the stats we're throwing out here about equal teams having 41% more revenue and bilingual employees earning 10% more revenue. These are things that will get executives' attention. So maybe, yeah, like you said, we're not framing the argument in a way that actually gets a CEO's attention.
Mm-hmm.
I got another stat for you. Um, a study by Harvard and Princeton found that blind auditions, as you know, but for our listeners, blind auditions are when you're only looking at the skills and history of an applicant and not their name or any kind of clues about their background. So Harvard and Princeton found that blind auditions increase the likelihood that a woman would be hired by between 25 and 46%. So almost double. So that speaks to the bias that we often have of having a woman's name on a resume, but having similar skills of a man. But if you eliminate the name from it, women are actually being hired more.
Yes. Now, this touches on something that's very dear to me. So when I think about diversity, obviously, well, not obviously, but I am a woman, but I'm also African American.
Hmm.
So I think a lot of times our diversity efforts focus more on the woman part of me than the person of color part of me.
Yeah.
And yes, it is. I don't want to diminish this, but yes, it's easier to take a woman's name off of something and, not know if it's a man or a woman, because on a resume, you really aren't, like, I don't think that most recruiters or most hiring managers are skilled enough in the psychology of how women and men communicate in writing. So that won't be an issue. But, if you looked at my school and I went to University of Maryland and someone else went to Howard, you already know.
Yeah.
Or you can assume. Or
You can
I should say
assume.
you can assume.
You can assume because
Right.
I was at Morgan State. I spoke for like a career development thing, and there were some Caucasian brothers and sisters in the audience.
Mhm.
So it's an assumption, but it won't always be the right one.
It is. And for me, I think diversity should be deliberate. And
Yeah.
I don't think we should hide behind it. There was an African American young lady that created a tool, and I cannot remember her name, and I wish I had a moment to look it up. She created a tool that would scrub off, your demographics off of your resume, like all of them. And I know that we had discussed it on our Women's History Month podcast on TIC when we were doing that, or when I was part of that team. And I was the only one that was against it, because I think, again, that diversity should be deliberate. I think we should be going into those places. We should be going to the Morgan States. We should be going to the Howard Universities. We should be going to the Florida A&M and the North Carolina A&Ts and looking for talent. And we should be going, to SWE conferences, Society of Women Engineers. We should be going to Society of Hispanic Professional Engineers. We should be doing all of these things, going to these organizations and going to their conferences and really, really, being deliberate in trying to bring them into our organizations. Because like you already mentioned, imagine you only talked about gender, creating 41% more revenue. Imagine if you had more diversity in terms of persons of color, disabilities, sexual orientation, their abilities, whatever the case may be. Imagine you had that. Imagine how much more your revenue could be.
I actually have a stat. I knew we were building up to this, so
Okay.
yeah, I wasn't gonna disappoint. So there's a Forbes article, and there's a like circle pie chart here. So gender diverse companies are 15% more likely to outperform, but ethnically diverse companies are 35% more likely to outperform. So we just elevated the conversation from, of course, we talked about the benefits of gender diversity and by being bilingual. But when you have ethnic diversity, your teams have a 20% greater chance of outperforming against their peers.
That's huge.
So, if I'm a business owner, I'm definitely following your lead about making diversity intentional, because it's going to be a win-win for my business.
It is. And I understand, again, from a human resources standpoint, where the apprehension is, because, human resources is there to protect the company. And at the end of the day, I don't think it's the job seeker's responsibility to make organizations, to not have organizations discriminate against them.
I agree.
It's not. We've made it, and our laws and all the things that we have said and we've made it so that it's the job seeker's responsibility not to be discriminated against, instead of it being the folks that are responsible for doing the hiring. It's their responsibility not to do that. So when you have things like, okay, why can't my company hire diverse talent? Well, because you don't have any.
It's the chicken and the egg conversation.
Right. And then, we'll put up, we HR people will say, well, we can't do that if there's a like me bias. That's a like me bias. Well, maybe, but at the end of the day, someone like me knows someone like me.
Yeah, and most jobs are filled through referrals. So better yet, not only are most jobs filled through referrals, but most people that stay on jobs are
Hmm.
typically referred versus coming through a job board or a
Yeah.
resume off the street. So yeah, there's kind of like a breakdown there between, oh, we don't want like me bias, but the people that stay on the longest are the ones that know somebody.
Hmm. And I think, and that was one of them. I think like how did we were talking about, successful diversity recruiting. Employee referrals is one of those ways to do it. But again, you have to have some diverse talent in your organization
Hmm.
to
Hmm.
to make that effective.
Yeah. And yeah, let's go down that path of some things that we can do to make diversity intentional and actually increase our efforts there. One of the things that I think about, and I especially think about Silicon Valley, is when you start to recruit diverse professionals, you do have to look within your organization, but you also have to look at your community, and
Mhm.
you've got to say, okay, is there a place for my people to attend their religious services? Is there a place, for Joey to go get a haircut because he may not get a haircut at Great Clips or Sport Clips or something like that? Um,
Right.
are there meaningful communities within that area that a Kirsten can develop bonds with? So a part of the recruiting strategy should be not just internally, but what does your community landscape look like, and what can you do to influence that?
Absolutely. In one of the last organizations I worked in, there was an effort put in that the company wanted to look like the area where its employees were, and we had offices all over the world actually. So um, you do have to do that because people do want to get into a place. People want to have a safe space, and it really is human nature to first and foremost attach yourself or try to develop a relationship with someone that is like you, or that you perceive to be like you, before you go and try and the harder sell of getting someone that appears to be the opposite of you.
Right, right. I mean, just on a practical level, if you walk into a party, the first thing you're gonna do is try to find somebody that you think you can bond with.
Right.
I'm speaking as an introvert here, though. I don't know. Extroverts might be like, "Hey, what's up, stranger?"
Strangely enough, I am I am a recruiter, so I project extrovert, but I am actually an introvert. Like I prefer my own space. When I was working outside of the home, and I had to go in an office every day, I needed time. When I came home, like to not speak, to not do anything because I had been around people all day.
Yeah.
And I preferred my alone time. So I got you. I am introverted in social settings as well.
Awesome. Well, Kirsten Greggs, it's been a pleasure talking with you, and I know we'll chat online as always. But where can our listeners go if they want to learn more about your insights, follow your blog, and possibly reach out to you as a career coach or diversity advocate?
Yes, again, please reach out to me on LinkedIn. At my name is again Keirsten Greggs. Please spell it in the non large coffee company way. Keirstengreggs. You can reach out to me via my website, kgreggs.com. There is a contact space there where my email is info@kgreggs.com. And my blog, which you can get to from my website or directly, is at TRAP, TRAP, recruiter, RECRUITER.com.
All right. And if you enjoyed this episode, would you please leave a 5-star review on iTunes? And if you have a topic that you'd like us to cover in entrepreneurship, life, coffee, tea, anything that would add value to your life from a business or life standpoint, why don't you send me a tweet at Joey V Price HR, or send me an email at actually that's jprice at jumpstart-hr.com. Thanks for tuning in, and enjoy the rest of your day. If you've recently started a business, Why take away time from what you're good at, only to focus on difficult, pesky HR problems? Jumpstart HR LLC offers a better solution. Jumpstart HR provides HR outsourcing support to U.S.-based small businesses and startups, and was recently ranked among the top 10 HR outsourcing firms in the country, according to BusinessNewsDaily.com. From recruitment to employee handbooks to legal compliance, Jumpstart HR helps you get peace of mind about the people in your business. Visit jumpstart-hr.com for more information or follow on Twitter at JumpstartHR. Jumpstart HR. Let's build a better business together.